Good afternoon, Saitlanders. How are you? I apologize for the strange lighting in here. I'm struggling to get the right balance. When it's morning, then I do some things, midday, afternoon, when the sun is set behind the house, or when it's evening, but this is different. This is kind of mid-afternoon, but there's dense cloud cover, dense and low cloud cover, and a rain shower. So the whole ambient light quality coming in through the window is proving to be a bit tricky for me to cope with. Anyway, guys, yesterday I did a video whose title was something like "The Palookas at Eskom were taken as much by surprise by stage 4 load shedding as you were." And there's a follow-up to that, or an ancillary thing. So today is Thursday, the 28th of October, and I just want to talk to you about the Kuberg story. The day before yesterday, the Chief Operating Officer of Eskom held a meeting with the maintenance crews at Kuberg at 6:30 in the morning. Later on in the day, he spoke about that meeting. And he said how astonished he was to discover that much of, I think he used the word like a horrifying proportion of, or a horrifying amount of, or a certain percentage of the staff had left, the maintenance staff at Kuberg, and it was horrifying. So a big proportion of the Kuberg technical staff had left Kuberg. Indeed, to his astonishment, he discovered that many of them had left without jobs. Can you imagine how bad it must be to work for the deployed cadres of the ANC? So bad that you come home one evening and you say to your wife, "Liefie, I'm going to resign." And she says to you, "Have you got another job?" And you say no, and she says, "Fine, because I understand, because this has been going on for years. I don't know, my darling, how you've lasted this long with those idiots." Imagine you've got a job for the state. Your job is secure. You're a specialized technician. You're earning a good salary. Everything is, besides the working conditions, everything is what you kind of have to get out of a job. A decent salary and security, first and foremost, above all else. And because you're working for the state, ease and comfort come into it. You probably getting your tea time, lunchtime, afternoon tea, this much leave. You don't have to, work too much overtime. And you say, it's not worth it. I'd rather stay at home and earn nothing than work with and for these plonkers. I know that few of you watching these videos are mainstream people, or normie people, or left-wing people, or modernists, or liberals. But for the three who are, guys, I don't want to be unkind, but this writing has been on that wall since forever. So, as a kind of related topic, over the past weekend, I think it began, this subject emerged on Friday or Saturday past, so 5-6 days ago, and then it was addressed on Sunday. I'm going to tell you the two episodes in it. First of all, City of Johannesburg announced that it would not implement wholesale power cuts, blackouts, because it disagreed with Eskom on the policy and so on. Anyway, it was then reported that on Sunday, Eskom met with the powers that be at the City of Johannesburg, and City Power, as it's known, and persuaded them that if they don't implement the blackouts, if they insist upon taking their fair share, the entire national grid will be in danger of total collapse. Think of the modifiers in that sentence. The grid will be in danger of collapse. No. The entire national grid will be in danger of total collapse. Now, today, we've got an article, I'll bring it up for you. Just make it easier to read. This is today, the 28th of October, and it's written by one Jan Vermeulen on the site mybroadband.co.za. Let's see what we can do here. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. There we go. Eskom on brink of total collapse. The situation at state power utility Eskom is dire and has pushed South Africa beyond the tipping point. Energy thought leader. That's all in capital letters, so presumably he is the CEO. The CEO, Mike Rousseau, has said. So presumably the organization is called Energy Thought Leader. Eskom is near total collapse, Rousseau said during a recent interview on Radio 702. Rousseau is the former chair of blah, blah, blah. I don't see light at the end of the tunnel. In fact, I see a big train coming down the tunnel. We're definitely going to have to get used to being in the dark, etc., etc., etc. The rest is just spiel. It's all about things that we already know. I've done videos in the past explaining exactly how much of Eskom's resources are unavailable, and I can't remember the exact figures out of my head, but I did some research among Eskom sources, their officially published sources, on what their generation capacity is, aside from intermittent generation capacity, such as the pump storage scheme at Ngula, and occasional generation capacity like wind and solar and so on that don't work when there's no wind, and don't work at night, and don't work when there's heavy cloud cover. And research on what South Africa's peak demand is and what the difference is. And the numbers were phenomenal. You know, when they say that they're, let's say, 4 megawatts short, it's not that they're 4 megawatts short. It's that they're 4 megawatts short of meeting the peak demand. The peak demand is not their generation capacity. The generation capacity, as I remember it, and I do remember it, is, depending upon how you look at it and depending on what you include and what you don't include, between 44 and 47 megawatts. I'm not including the occasional and intermittent capacities. Excuse me, energy boffins, if I'm not using the correct terminology, but I'm not an expert in this field. So, excluding the part-time stuff, they should be able to generate, let's say, 45,000 megawatts, right? Not 45 megawatt, 45,000. That's what they're set up to do, to be able to do. So when they say that we can't meet this afternoon's peak demand of, and it varies obviously, between roughly 19,000 and 25,000. I'm speaking slightly loosely now, but I think that the spirit is honest. I can remember the figures fairly well. So if they can't meet a demand of, let's say, 20,000 megawatt, if they're 4,000 megawatts short, they're generating 16,000. That's 16,000 of 45,000. The problem is enormously bad. they're failing to generate 29,000. Anyway, there you have it. Eskom gave us an hour's notice, roughly an hour's notice, for stage 4 load shedding. Didn't know it was coming, the poor guys. No clue. I found out when you found out. What can I do? It's not my fault. We had no idea. Nobody told us. And on top of that, we have, what's the guy's name? And Jan Oberholzer, the Chief Operating Officer of Eskom, attending a meeting or convening a meeting at Coburg and discovering to his astonishment that his staff had all gone. Again, nobody told me. I didn't know. It's not my fault. And now we have this article today in which this man, Rousseau, Mike Rousseau, Energy Thought Leader Company, CEO, Mike Rousseau, telling us that the end is nigh. And he says at one part, how does he put it? He says, I can't see any light at the end of the tunnel. I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. In fact, I see a big train coming down the tunnel at us. Guys, we've been warning about this for years, and many people have mocked us for it. Because the reason is that we don't have the luxury, we Suidlanders don't have the luxury of being able to say anything we like and get away with it. Therefore, we have to depend very heavily upon facts, whereas others can take greater shortcuts. And so on factual bases, we've been saying for years, look, there's a very, very, very big problem. Whereas City Press, The Star, Die Vaderland, Die Burger, Beeld, the Daily News, the Natal Mercury, the Natal Post, what's the one in Pietermaritzburg, the Natal Witness, and so on and so forth, could say there's a problem at Eskom, and the CEO says, don't worry, we're going to fix it, and Cyril Ramaphosa says that no stone will be left unturned, creating the impression in people's minds that there's hope. But the facts didn't say that. The facts didn't suggest that. The required amount of maintenance at Eskom per year versus the amount of maintenance being done, for instance, is a classic illustration, the ideal example of this thing. The Natal Witness could say whatever it liked in the spirit of the new South Africa Rainbow Nation and Simunye, we are one. But we spoke in terms of the hard facts about how much maintenance had to be done. Not how much maintenance could be left out if you would just love Nelson Mandela a little bit more. How much maintenance had to be done and how much was being done. And on that basis, the basis is not so much bragging as it might seem. It's not bragging about how accurate or reliable we've been. The point is more to create a basis for what I want to say. So now that you know that we've been pretty spot on in the past, I want to say to you that according to the best research that we're doing, what Mike Rousseau is saying is not, the point is not whether we say, oh yeah, he's right. We don't really know the precise extent to which he's right. But we can say, given that we have been fairly accurate in the past, we'd like to now say to you that if this chappie is correct, and if things do worsen drastically, if they do worsen severely, it's going to be more severe than you might think. So, what are we saying? We've looked into this, we've learned it, we've studied it as laymen, only as laymen, not as electrical engineers. We've gotten a rough idea of what's cooking, and in light of what this fellow is saying, we, Suidlanders, say to you, there is even more to the story. If the grid collapses, it won't be able to be restarted for a long, long, long time, and then only very slowly. In other words, gradually, not all at once. And in the interim, there will be huge effects upon South Africa's economy, effects that you can barely begin to imagine. Supply chains will collapse overnight. Petrol stations will not be able to pump fuel, among other things. Woolworths will not be able to refrigerate meat at its DC distribution center, and vegetables and so on. And hospitals will not be able to provide many life-saving services. And that will lead to a level of dissatisfaction, that and those and other events which shall transpire, most certainly, to a level of dissatisfaction and resentment among the masses, such as you and I can hardly dream of. If 30 million very, very poor people in this country, or 20 million, or just 10, do not have access to food and do not have access to transport, and because of ructions in the economy, the access to money that they have is access to money of lessened value, they will make the events of the 8th to the 14th of July this year in Natal and partly in Gauteng look like the teddy bear's picnic. I think I've said enough for now. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, please press the thumbs up. It's important for the algorithms. Share it and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much, and God bless you, all of you Suidlanders. Bye-bye.